Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got you guys an update on this massive Christmas blizzard that has begun to bring a lot of snowfall into the North-Central United States. And I just want to kick off this video by saying Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm so happy I could get on here on this wonderful Christmas day. I know for a lot of you guys, it's probably raining out here because you can see, just looking at the weather radar right now, it is very, very busy. All right. You can actually see me a little bit better, I think, because I got a new ring light for Christmas today, so I'm very, very excited and happy about that. All right, so a lot of good things happening today. I got a lot of nice presents that are really going to help me make these videos possible and a lot better for you guys. All right, to work with me, but we've got a lot of things to talk about here, weather-wise, across the country. Mainly this, this big blizzard. All right, it's pretty visible on radar, as you can see. All right, we've got low pressure signature right there. This is becoming negatively tilted. All right, but we're not seeing enough instability in front of the system to get any severe weather. But you can start to see a lot of that those rain and thunderstorms starting to build up on the front side there down in the southeast. All right. But we've got a lot of cold air coming down from Canada, coming out of the northwest here, and that's changing a lot of this rainfall over to snow. All right, we're starting to see very heavy snow and gusty winds start to impact portions of the north central United States. I've also got an update for you guys on the pattern change that we're going to be going into as we get into January. This could last all the way into the end of January, where we could even see maybe the coldest air of the winter start to impact portions of the eastern U.S. All right, I'm going to try and explain what the models are saying about that and what we could take away from everything going on. All right, so just keeping an eye on everything else that's going on. We got a storm system coming into the Pacific Northwest. Starting to see some more persistent snowfall bands starting to move through the Washington and Oregon state border. Right here, you can start to see this band of snow. This will get very heavy, especially for those upper elevations. So maybe a few inches of snow over there. We're not going to spend any time talking about that. Maybe tomorrow, if I can get an update in for you guys. But yes, definitely a very active day weather-wise across the country, and this will continue as we get into this week. So moving on here to our alerts, you can see that yes, we are very, very active. All right, we've got a lot of alerts to cover here. All right, so starting out here in this orange shade here, we have our blizzard warnings. All right, this has been named a blizzard. It's been called a blizzard now. I think this will actually become a named winter storm if it isn't already. All right, I'm not sure about that, but I'm definitely sure that this will become a named winter storm. I'm not sure what name we're up to. All right, but yes, we see this blizzard warning is stretching from portions of South Dakota, really from northern South Dakota, all the way through into portions of northwestern Kansas and then northeastern Colorado. This is where we could see blizzard conditions because you can see actually right here into Colorado. Perfect transition here into our high wind warning. All right, we are really dealing with gusty winds right now. I mean, we're going to look at the wind map later, but right now we could actually be talking about gusts up to 50 miles per hour, and these winds could get even stronger into tonight. So maybe some power outages with this storm system. All right, this is definitely what we're talking about with a blizzard, and this is going to be one of those doozies, just one of those big winter storms that we're going to be talking about this winter. All right, this is probably the most major winter storm that we've been dealing with this winter so far. All right, we can see really all around this area, even stretching out towards portions of northern Minnesota, and then all around where we have the more significant warnings, we have winter weather advisories. All right, going out for those areas, they're going to be seeing basically wintry precipitation. That's what that means. Snowfall, maybe some freezing rain, some ice. We're going to be talking about ice totals in a little bit. Just got to add that to my tabs open. All right. But yes, we have just can't get over how busy it is out here in the northern plains. All right. We can see winter storm warnings going out for portions of south central Nebraska, and then it gets cut off by this blizzard warning. But then just off to the west of the blizzard warnings, where we meet up with more counties out there with winter storm warnings. winter storm warnings going out for portions of extreme western South Dakota here, going into portions of Wyoming. All right, so just a very big area here that's going to be impacted by the system. All right, but going up towards the Dakotas bottom, the eastern side here, so right by where the South Dakota North Dakota border meets. All right, that's where we could see ice storm warnings. All right, and so that's a pretty rare alert that you see posted by the National Weather Service, just because it's only when you get a significant ice storm to come through, and so that's pretty specific here, and that's what we're dealing with today. All right, so we could see some very significant ice accumulations, so please stay off those roadways. Just today is probably the worst day to be on those roadways. It's Christmas time, so just stay home if you can. You know, it's very nice to have a white Christmas, but this is also causing big problems because you really don't want to be on those roadways at all, and so you can't really travel to any, relatives that are around your area. All right, obviously, you definitely don't want to go, to an extended place like a state near you, but obviously, but you certainly you just want to stay off those roadways. That's basically what we're saying here. All right. But taking a look in the Northeast, we're going to southern New England and the Mid Atlantic. We can see we just had dense fog advisories issued. I know that my Alexa went off because it gives me weather alerts, and that was probably about half an hour ago. So fresh alerts going out here for portions of southern New Hampshire, all the way down through Delmarva. All right, this is where we're seeing that very dense fog. It was very very foggy coming home from the Christmas party I was at. So yeah, just make sure that you're aware of those hazardous conditions. All right. Some high wind warnings going out for portions of South Central Oregon down towards Northern California, and then on the coast is where we have those wind advisories, and then scattered winter weather advisories going out for portions of Washington State and Oregon State. All right. So that's going to bring us to our NAM 3KM model for the North-Central United States. All right, so taking a look here at our winter storm system. All right, so this was the story at 2 p.m. today. All right, and so we have a lot of very, very heavy snow moving over portions of Nebraska into southern South Dakota here. All right, we can see this band of very, very heavy snow it's going to start to continue. It's going to continue to rotate around the system. All right, so it's most likely going to be moving kind of in a southeastern direction, if you would, while this storm system is starting to kind of move out. So it's going to be like move different moving parts with the system. Then it's going to do something weird, and you know what it's going to do? It's actually going to kind of it's not going to bomb out completely, all right, but it's definitely it's kind of just going to stretch apart and just hang in this area for another day or so. All right, but look at all this very cold air coming out behind it, coming out of the northwest. Look at this cold air, this pushing all that warm air off to the east. So that's why we can see the inside the warm sector. We have the rainfall, and then on the backside of that, where that cold air is, we have the very heavy snow. But notice also how we have this very heavy freezing rain and some ice showing up here. This is your ice storm right into that area of really all the way up from the South Dakota and Minnesota border up to North Dakota. That's where we can really see the most significant ice totals with this. All right. So that's how things are going to be working as we get throughout today. All right. So we'll take it to where we are now. So about 9 p.m. And notice how as this continues to rotate, that band of snow is starting to actually move off to the west again. So it's almost backtracking, just because this low pressure center right here is actually coming from here to here. So you can see it's starting to move back off to the west, and so that's going to bring all this precipitation back to those areas that saw it earlier this morning. All right, so now we can start to see some of that heavy snow, moderate to heavy snow, move back into portions of western South Dakota into western Nebraska. So that's why we can see the heavier snowfall totals are really going to be in the central and western portions of the state. All right, before this brings more snow to the eastern portion of the state. So kind of 2 rounds of snow are expected here. All right, so we'll take this to the rest of the night. Okay, and you can see this low pressure. All right, it moves even farther off to the west. So now we can start to see areas maybe all the way out towards Wyoming, starting to see more snow showing up tonight. And these pockets of snow, all right, could be very, very heavy before the system starts to slowly kind of fall apart. All right, but notice how this band of freezing rain, it really starts to separate here, and it's kind of moving off to the east, and so it's spreading into those areas that are still inside of that warm front. All right, so we could see actually there's a shield of freezing rain and ice on the north side, the top of this system here. Look at all this freezing rain. All right, this is going to be stretching all the way from South Dakota and North Dakota, all the way over to areas north of the UP of Michigan. All right, into portions of Canada. All right, so really, a big area is going to be seeing some pretty significant ice totals, and then we take this to tomorrow morning. We're getting to early hours tomorrow morning into the afternoon, okay? And notice how this just starts to fizzle out. All right, you can see it unfolding here. It's kind of just looping around in this area for a long time, and it's fizzling out as it comes through. So this snow will just get lighter and lighter. But the more persistent snow is definitely still back here into portions of South Dakota and Nebraska. All right, but then look at these tiny pockets, these very tiny pockets of snow. All right, these are snow squalls. All right, we're starting to see intense snow squalls move right around that low pressure center, and that's moving right off to the east. That could actually impact portions of Missouri. All right, that will certainly impact portions of Kansas, Nebraska, and then into Iowa. All right, for Kansas and Nebraska, it's going to be the extreme eastern side. But for Iowa, if you're down here in the southwestern portion of Iowa, be ready tomorrow. All right, this is 6 p.m. So right around the dinner time frame there. That's when we can really start to see that those heavy bands move through. It's only going to last for a few hours. All right, but the most active time for that's going to be around 6 p.m. All right. Uh, this basically that's all going to fall apart. All right, but we can still see more precipitation or hanging on to precipitation, some light to moderate precipitation right around that low pressure center. All right, but notice how we're getting a pretty good band of moderate to heavy snowfall starting to show up here for portions of Missouri into portions of extreme western Illinois, right around the St. Louis area. We could pick up maybe up to half an inch of snow. I think it's possible if that snow band comes farther south. And actually, we do see all the way. This is getting pretty far out. We're getting to Wednesday, all right? Not saying that this is too far out to, not make any forecasts on this. This is certainly a forecast because we're just going out 2 days, but this is getting pretty far out, meaning just that it's pretty incredible that we're still hanging on to the storm system. All right, but it's going to develop more and more just very heavy, tiny pocket and bands of snowfall, and maybe some warm air is going to be left inside this big area of cold air here. So we actually start to see that snowfall change to rain. So very heavy, wet snow. All right, showing up here, and the NAM 3 cam model wants a pretty heavy band of snowfall to move through the St. Louis area. So I'm pretty sure when we look at our snowfall totals, it's going to be pretty significant. All right, but yes, just round after round of very isolated snow after the system fizzles out. All right, when it fizzles out, that's when you get the very tiny bands of heavy snowfall. All right, the outbursts is what we sometimes call them of snowfall. All right, that's after the storm fizzles out, and that's all going to be really Tuesday into Wednesday, but mainly Wednesday, before we really don't have any storm system left. All right, so yes, definitely a very eventful few days coming up here with this big blizzard that eventually will weaken as it moves off to the east. So moving on here, taking a look at our current ice totals, and this is looking pretty significant, guys. This is still the NAM model here, but I think there's very good model agreement here in our ice totals. And this is a very significant ice storm. Taking a look here currently, you can see right here in the southeastern North Dakota is where we can see the most intense most significant ice totals, ice accumulations, I should say. 1.36 inches of ice. All right, this is what could be on those roadways. Okay, and I think we're gonna see pileups tonight, tomorrow, then maybe even into Wednesday. Okay, if there's black ice and you're driving on black ice, you wanna pull over or just take it very very slow. All right, but really you don't want to drive. All right, you certainly don't want to drive uh, when you have an inch, all right, of ice, the forecasted, all right, that basically tells you that you should avoid driving here. That's basically what this is saying. But we're seeing very significant ice totals, really, for this entire general area in the southeastern North Dakota, and then really all the way out here into eastern South Dakota. So maybe those high, or sorry, those ice storm warnings are, I think they could be shifted farther north, because the NAM is certainly putting those heavier accumulations off to the north. So maybe rather than South Dakota, we'll start to see those really intense ice accumulations start to show up here in North Dakota. But even in the South Dakota, you know anywhere around half an inch of ice is certainly possible, and even into the western and central portion of the state, we could still see maybe up to a quarter of an inch of ice. All right, that's certainly possible, but it's really here in the portions of North Dakota, and then maybe even into slightly into portions of Minnesota is where we're going to see really just those incredible ice totals here. But I mean, I would say really over half an inch of ice is certainly enough to cause major pileups, big problems. Tell you guys, the morning commute tomorrow, it's just gonna be it's this storm is wrecking havoc. It's gonna be intense, and it's gonna be pretty wild, especially in the Dakotas. The Dakotas is really the pinpointed area for the storm system, but mainly the ice here. It's really not looking good for these travel conditions. Tomorrow morning. All right, but yeah, anywhere inside this blue into this dark purple, and then even into these like salmon kind of colors, if you want to put it that way. Salmon is, I don't know. All right, that's where you could really start to see the significant ice totals. That's when you really know that this is a ice storm that you're dealing with, not only a snowstorm, but certainly accumulations with your ice is certainly possible, and I think it really should be expected, and it is expected. All right, but taking a look at your snowfall totals. All right, this is something a lot of people are wanting to look at. All right, right now there's already there's a lot of snow on the ground. There's probably around half a foot of snow for these areas that are impacted by the blizzard conditions, but a lot more snow is expected. All right, so taking a look here, we'll start on this in the Dakotas. All right, starting in North Dakota, that same area that's gonna see those ice accumulations. You're gonna get 10 inches of snow. Right around 9 to 10 inches of snow is expected here, and we can even see some of this green. Okay, that's a foot of snow. If you see uh any stripe of green, that is at least a foot of snow. 12 inches right there. All right, so you know with 6+ inches of snow, all right, well over 6 inches of snow, and not quite an inch and a half of ice, but well over an inch of ice. That's the recipe for a very intense winter storm that's going to cause just big problems here, especially on those roadways. I'm trying to stress this as much as I can, because travel is going to be just plain dangerous tomorrow morning. All right, but into South Dakota, all right, we can start to see really same kind of range, but a lot more snow into the central portion of the state. So central South Dakota, seeing a few inches over a foot of snow, really anywhere in this green. All right, some areas though you could see some stripes. All right, of this darker green. All right, that's getting up towards a foot and a half of snow. That's 16 inches, or sorry, that is 18 inches. I don't think we're gonna see 18 inches unless we're unless you are inside of this one of these more intense shades of green, like right here if it's very small. I don't know if you could see that, but yeah, those two pockets could actually see a little bit over a foot of snow. But yes, certainly at least 7 to 8 inches of snow. But mainly it's looking like 9, 10, 11 inches of snow, and then if you're the lucky winner, then you'll probably be dealing with around a foot of snow. But for the surrounding areas, 2 to 3 inches generally into northern Nebraska. Here we could start to see 5, 6, 7, maybe up to 8 inches of snow. All right, so that's a lot of snow. But for the rest of the state, like portions of eastern and western Nebraska, is where we could see really the generally 1 to 3 inch range, but maybe over to western Nebraska. All right, maybe a little bit higher, maybe 5, 6, 7 inches of snow is certainly possible. All right, but take a look into northern Kansas. I would say 1 to 3 inches, but we're starting to see a lot of ones and twos out here. So a fresh coating of snow. All right, I don't think it's gonna be plowable snow. All right, but yeah, just a couple inches of snow is certainly possible out there. Uh, we'll go into Minnesota here, going back up north. All right, 1 to 5 inches. It's gonna be a kind of a weird system with into portions of Minnesota. I think the entire state's going to see snow, but I think really up in the northern tier of Minnesota is where we can see really generally 1 to 5 inches. But some of these tinier pockets of light blue and then into these purples, that's where you can see really 3 to 6 inches. Okay, and that's going to be really for the north central, just off to the west portion of the state, if you kind of get what I mean there. All right, but anything south than that, really just 1 to 2 inches, 1 to 3 inches, is what you could expect. All right, in the portions of Iowa, all right, central and southern Iowa, 1 to 2 inches is expected. I don't think we're gonna see that much snow into Iowa, but maybe you'll get lucky and a heavier band will move through. Maybe you'll get up to 3, 4 inches of snow. That's possible. All right, but I really wouldn't expect much for Iowa. And then down into Missouri, where things could get interesting with those snow squalls afterwards. That's where you could start to see more of the heavy snow. 3, maybe 6 inches here, because we start to see these purples showing up even into portions of western Illinois. All right, and that is that's because of your snow squalls that are going to be happening after the storm fizzles out. All right, so that's where we can see maybe some additional heavier amounts possible. All right, so those were your snowfall totals currently predicted, and we look at now your winds. All right, your winds are a big factor in the system. The reason why we're calling it a blizzard is because to get blizzard conditions, you need basically whiteout conditions. You need gusts gusting to 45 miles per hour around there. All right, you need very heavy snow. I'm not sure what the exact requirements are for blizzard conditions, but certainly whiteout conditions is a big factor in calling a storm system a blizzard, and so that's certainly what we're going to have here. So take a look at your current wind gusts. Right off the bat, you can see we're gusting really anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour in any area that you see in pink or into purple. Purple is where you're going to see the strongest winds. All right, I'm going to get some cities out here. We can see south of Walker in Minnesota, Morris, really this general area, 45 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Bismarck, Fargo in North Dakota here, we can see really around 40 mile per hour wind gusts. But down near Aberdeen, Pierre, Rapid City, South Dakota, Huron, all right, maybe a little bit over 45 miles per hour, but it's down here in Nebraska. All right, south of Valentine, just north of North Platte. All right, 50 miles per hour. I think we're going to be gusting to 50 miles per hour tonight. And these winds could certainly increase. And even outside of this, in these oranges, all right, 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts are certainly possible. We carry on throughout the night and watch as these winds continue to rotate around that low pressure center. For a moment here, we're starting to see 50 miles per hour showing up here. Just getting into Tuesday morning. All right, so this is 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. Look at this, 53 miles per hour, 54, 55 potentially up to here, just to the east of the Rockies here. So Denver and Colorado Springs. If you're just off to the east of there in that general area, all right, possibly wind gusts over 50 miles per hour. All right, we could see those winds coming out of the northeast here on the backside as that band of snow is starting to rotate around the low pressure center. Uh, it's going to be replaced by 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts here. So it's going to be pretty strong and gusty all the way through Tuesday as these winds start to slowly die down. All right, maybe some certainly gustier winds possible with those snow squalls. All right, but down here in the portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, and even into Texas, it could get very breezy into Wednesday. And then still into Thursday, we're still gusting to around 30, 20 to 30 miles per hour here. But at that point, we're not really seeing any of those major wind gusts like we're seeing here. All right, this is where you're getting those blizzard conditions. All right, with the heavy snow on top of those extremely gusty winds, like we're talking 45 to 50 miles per hour, you're getting whiteout conditions. All right, and this is just gonna cause chaos here, and this is an all-out blizzard, an all-out winter storm. All right, so take a look at the southeastern U.S. All right, well, actually, I think I deleted the tab, so we'll go back to the NAM here. Just wanted to show you guys our current projected radar, our future radar with this. All right, so taking a look at the southeastern U.S., what this storm has got in stock for you guys. All right, so starting out here, you can see some prefrontal thunderstorms starting to develop. Nothing much, maybe some pockets of heavy rain is possible. I know we did actually see some flash flood watches and some warnings actually came up yesterday here, but a pretty solid band of scattered thunderstorms and rainfall moving through the southeast. All right, this is not going to get much heavier as we continue tonight, but you can start to see some bubbly shapes and forms of these storms, signifying some thunderstorms possible. So really, a rumble of thunder. I don't think we're going to see any lightning, but maybe a flash or two. It's not. It's really not going to be anything significant, and this we started to see some more low pressure centers, some weak low pressure centers trying to take over the system, and they're just going to be dancing around this group of rainfall. But yes, I think some pockets of very heavy rainfall could move through right here in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, similar to that area that saw the flooding from that nor'easter that moved up the coast just a few days ago. I think that general area could actually see a few more inches of rainfall, as we get into tomorrow, and then really Wednesday is where we could see for the coastal regions of up here in North Carolina, where you can see the heaviest rainfall with that. But on the backside, maybe a few showers, but big cold front's coming. It's on the way here. We could start to see it pushing down farther into the deep south. So, let me go back. Let me go back here to your rainfall totals. I apologize for going to the GFS for a second. I don't know what happened here. 1 second, guys. All right, let's go to the southeast here. All right. And so we'll put this out to the end of Wednesday. And so yeah, you can definitely see that the GFS is actually calling for heavier rain into South Carolina rather than North Carolina. We could start to see really 2 to 3, maybe 4 inches of rain possible into the coastal regions of South Carolina, but it only wants about an inch or two of rainfall on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. If you're in the interior portions of North Carolina, really close to the Smoky Mountains there, I think that's where you could see maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain, certainly possible. But general area, 1 to 2 inches, I would expect. So really, just a soggy day. I don't think we're going to see any flooding in this area of the United States. If I would say, if we were back to tomorrow or yesterday, and we were back here into portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas, and Oklahoma, I think that's where we would see an actual flooding threat. But I really don't think that this rainfall is going to cause too many problems other than just a wet and soggy day in general for the southeastern U.S. So we'll move on now to the GFS model for the rest of the country. All right, so we've got through our forecast here with this system. All right, and this system is going to be moving out, but what's behind it is really what's going to be changing our weather for the rest of January. Well, really the rest of December as we get into January. All right. So taking a look here, as we're leaving with the system, we can already see this pattern change kind of unfolding. All right. So you can start to see a big dip in the jet stream, a big cold blast coming down from Canada. That's pushing very far south, well into portions of Texas, and then this is just going to keep moving down as far south as it can, pushing all that warm air off to the east and eventually out to sea. But notice how a lot of that cold air takes over the country here, and that moves off into the east. And we see another pop-off low off the coast, and that could actually meet up with that cold air and call for a little bit of a snowfall event out there in the Northeast. We actually do see the coastal regions of the Northeast and New England. All right, starting to see a little bit of a snowstorm there. So maybe 1 to 3 inches of snow with that. It's pretty far out. All right, about 5, 6 days out. So we don't know exactly what's going to be happening with that, but we'll certainly keep watching it. But notice how this ridge here is starting to come in well into the western U.S. All right. So what that calls for is cooler temperatures in the east, and then we're going to get a pretty big band of cooler air coming in behind this. All right. So when you have a very active jet stream pattern like this, where you see a big ridge and then two areas of cold air, a dip in the jet stream there, if you get a low pressure, all right, center that forms on any part of this on this jet stream. All right, it's when it's active enough like this, you could definitely get a major storm system. All right, because the uh the conditions are there. All right, because you could actually be dealing with a cold blast coming down, and then you get a low pressure center that starts on the top of that ridge, and then you could eventually become you could actually get a negatively tilted trough. All right, and that just calls for trouble. All right, but what we see as we get into January here, January 3rd, all right, we basically have got a pattern flip flop. We go from uh, cold air, all right, coming down from Canada with warm air in the east, cold air in the west, all right, to cold air in the north and warm air in the south, but the deep south, all right. And we've got two pieces of energy coming down, one coming down from the north central, one coming down from the south. We see what's going to happen with this. Is this going to turn into a big snowstorm? And it doesn't do much, but it definitely comes down and brings, a few inches of snow. If this were to happen, this is just a signal because this is very far out. But if this were to happen, we'd get probably a few inches of snow down to the high plains here, and then that brings some rainfall into the deep south before exiting into the northeast and bring some snowfall with that. But I think that this could actually be where we get a kickstart to winter. Because look at this. The entire northern U.S., everybody knows that winter is supposed to bring cooler temperatures to the north. All right? That's how everybody knows winter should be like. And that's what we see here. So that's why I think we're going to see a pattern change, meaning that we're not going to be warm in one half of the country side by side rather than top to bottom. So where we can see the northern tier of the country just seeing widespread cold air here, and then the lower tier, the bottom tier of the country seeing warm air. So that's basically what we're going to be dealing with as we get into January, and I think we could be holding on to that for a few days, and so that's going to set the stage. All right, for any piece of energy coming out of the western U.S. All right, if it gets organized here, that could bring snow into portions of the northern or central U.S. anywhere. All right, so I think winter weather lovers are really going to enjoy the month of January in the really anywhere in the central or uh, northern U.S. because I think we're gonna get a big snowstorm because of this pattern change, and we do see here actually a snowstorm showing up January 7th here. All right, just a small signal from the GFS very far out. But what do we get? Well, we get a low pressure that starts down here. It rides the extended subtropical jet stream here coming out of the Pacific Ocean. All right, this is linked with El Nino. And at this point, we're seeing a big cool down from that polar vortex. All right, and so this is the recipe for a nor'easter bringing a lot of snow. That's exactly what we get here. We actually get uh a very intense snowstorm for Delmarva. All right, look at this. I mean, this would be extreme. snowfall for Delmarva, and then the Carolinas too getting some snow, some freezing rain, mixed precipitation, but that is a big nor'easter showing up there, 983 millibars, so that's a very active storm system. But then we see another pattern change getting to January 10th. All right, so we're getting midway to January. Uh, at this point, we're into winter officially, really. All right, and we're going back to that cold blast and then a warm surge and in a ridge pattern. All right, so interesting to see two pattern flip flops coming up potentially. All right, but I think that after January 10th to midway through January, those cold blasts will all be very, very strong and significant. Okay, and so that is also a big recipe for a big snowstorm. All right, so very active times coming up in the GFS. You may be wondering why I looked at the 12Z instead of the 18Z. Well, I think the 12Z is showing more of a, you know, active pattern coming up, and I want to make sure everyone's prepared for this. So that's why I want to look at the more active model run, right, rather than the 18Z, because the 18Z wasn't showing as much storminess in the future, which I don't think is going to be true. I think we're going to see a lot of storm systems in the future. But what does the European model have to say about this? Well, remember, it doesn't go out all 300 hours. All right, this only goes out 240 hours. All right, so taking this out, we don't see much storms coming together really as we get into January until really our big cold blast that the GFS was hinting it comes down, but the European model it doesn't want us to go directly to that pattern where we're cold in the north and warm in the south. It wants more of that cold blast kind of pattern to come into play. And then after we get to uh, what is this? This is hold on, guys. This is January 3rd. All right, so pretty well, pretty far into January. Just a few days into January here, and we don't really see that pattern that the GFS was showing, with warm air in the south and then cold air in the north. All right, so a little bit of model disagreement here. So an uncertainty in the future with this pattern change potential coming up. All right, but we end off with a storm system that's riding that Pacific jet stream. All right, so that is one check mark for our nor'easter setup. We do have a oncoming cold front. All right, here from the polar vortex here that's looking like it's going to come ahead of the system, because we could actually already see the entire northeastern U.S. is already inside that cold front. All right, so this is ending as a recipe for a nor'easter. But one thing that you have to deal with this, all right, you have to say, is this low pressure going to move like this? Is it going to stay off the coast? Or is it going to continue to move with the jet stream and stay more inland? All right, you get two scenarios. All right, the first one, if the low pressure is off the coast, you get a lot of heavy snow on the coastal regions. All right, those areas that did not see that much snow last winter. All right, but if you see it come through if you see it really hug the coast, like stay on the coast. All right, that's where you see the interior northeast see more of a heavy snowstorm. You see more of a rainstorm for the coastal regions. All right, that's basically what you get for your possible scenarios here with this potential nor'easter. That's just a signal. All right, but that's what would happen if we got a setup like that. All right, so moving on to the GFS model here, taking a look at our basically where our high pressure and low pressure is. We're taking a look at our troughing and where our ridging is going. Our ridge is basically shown here by our warmer colors, and our trough is shown by our cooler colors. All right, this is not a temperature anomaly. This is basically showing the pressure. All right, so basically what we could be going into is we could be going to a positive PNA and a negative EPO phase. All right, where we can see a positive PNA is where we see above average temperatures and ridging starting to show up here into Canada. All right, um, and a negative EPO is where we're going to see cooler temperatures and low pressure start to move through areas that are away from that. But we have a big ridge starting to come up here in the portions of Canada, and watch as that starts to slowly it starts to build up in the farther off to the west. Okay, so that's going to allow for uh, the Pacific storms to get active. All right, but if this opens up here, if this ridge opens up slightly in the eastern portion of the ridge here, that's where we could get a cold blast with with that polar vortex that'll come down through the uh, northern United States. But what we see here is that ridge. It's getting very, very active here. We're starting to see some low pressure and some troughing starting to show up for the eastern U.S. And basically, where we see this colder temperatures, colder uh, colors here. All right, that's where we can see some low pressure starting to move through. So that's basically a signal for where we can see some storminess. All right, and that carries through the eastern U.S. for all of the rest of December and then into January. We can actually get another signal for a nor'easter because we actually see that troughing gets very intense here. Look at this. It gets to a high point here. We're getting 30, just very dark colors here. We're on the bar here. We can see we're getting down to 36. All right, basically that just means that we are seeing a very strong trough. All right, and that moves up through the northeast, and then here we go. Here comes that opening up um, in the polar vortex, and this is where we could actually start to see not only below average temperatures, but also some more storming to start to impact the eastern U.S. And so the gates are open for the Pacific jet stream to become amplified. As you can see, it is actually, and so we can start to see it as it ends off. It actually starts to curve up to the north. All right, and then we'll start to see some cooler temperatures as well as just more storminess begin to unfold across the eastern portion of the United States. All right, getting into January though, here we go. We're back to that flip flop where we see warmer conditions in the east, colder conditions in the west. All right, but that's how things could be working here. I'm not sure if I explained that, in the best way. I'm gonna try to, also trying to understand this better as we go along here. So I'm definitely gonna be watching this in my future updates the next few days. So I'm hoping that I'll be better at explaining this by then. All right. But what I'm basically trying to tell you guys is that we're gonna start to see the polar vortex really start to open up, and I think that we're gonna see that ridging that we're seeing in the commonly in the eastern U.S. It's going to move up into Canada, and I think that's where the gates are going to be open to winter storms, blizzards, and just more storms like what's happening today. All right. So for the last part of the update, quickly looking at the GFS temperature anomalies. All right. So we can see well below average temperatures moving in with that blizzard. All right, and then we can see actually we're starting out with completely above average temperatures all in the eastern U.S. here, and this is just this is just becoming stationary because it's the storm system is starting to move out at this point, and we're still seeing really no difference or in the direction and position of that warm air, and it takes some significant cold air to get that to move out. All right, so we get to the end of December here. We could start to actually see temperatures getting as low as 12 degrees below our historical average in the deep south, the Gulf Coast, but still warm temperatures showing up in the northern U.S. Some pockets of cold air starting to breathe out there. Um, but when do we get the big cold air? Well, here we go. January 4th. This is 234 hours out. All right, but we start to see a big pocket of cold air. It's going to be just little flashes of below average temperatures until we get to January 6th. All right, January 6th to 7th. All right, look at this big Arctic blast coming down. And it's the entire northern U.S. at this point that's seeing those colder temperatures. But with the anomalies, this is where you see significantly colder temperatures than average. All right, when we look at the regular GFS with your precipitation, those blue lines just means where that cold front is coming, but this is where we see the big below average temperatures here, and so we could start to see that pattern where we see warmer conditions in the south here. All right, and then a lot of cold air coming into the northern and central portion of the United States here. And so, as we get as far as we can here into January, that cold air persists and it starts to fill in those areas that we're seeing warmer conditions that could be calling for more snowstorms, especially in the northern portion of the country, but especially here into into the deep south, I think. But mainly, I would say, really into the Mid Atlantic. All right, just to the west of the Mid Atlantic here, into the Appalachian Mountain region. I don't know how you guys pronounce that. All right, I think in that area, I think that is where we can actually see a big snowstorm. All right, as we get in January, and if this cold air uh, gets pushed off to the east a little bit farther, I think that we could actually be dealing with a big scenario for the northeastern U.S. And you always want to be careful because you never want to be dealing with big nor'easters because they can cause big problems. All right, but I do think that a nor'easter could be on the horizon, but mainly another big snowstorm or two could be in our future as we end January for the eastern or northern United States. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Merry Christmas once again. I hope you guys had a great day today. Thank you so much for joining me here um late at night here. I know it's 9:30. All right, on Christmas Day. All right, I know most of you guys are probably watching this on the 26th. But yeah, just a very active pattern coming up. We'll try and get through this big snowstorm. I know it's a big hassle, trying not to trying not to be on those roadways when you want to and you have to kind of. I don't know. It's just a very active time period here, and then with Christmas, everybody's running around. So yeah, just stay with me here. All right, we'll try and get through these next coming days before we just start completely talking about this big pattern flip coming up, what lies ahead when it comes to your snowstorms. So thank you all for coming to watch this video, and I'll see you guys next.